Hello Year 5 and welcome to another online lesson. We've done lots of English over the last few weeks, so I thought we could do something a little bit more creative and we can do an art lesson. But before we do our art lesson, I would like you to do a small spelling warm-up. And they are all words that end in C-I-O-U-S, the words from our Monday motivation sheet. I'm just going to bring up a screen and we'll be able to start our spelling warm-up. Now it's a little quiz, and if I said to you that the meaning of this adjective was of high price or very valuable, you would hopefully think of the word precious, and you would have written precious. Here's your first word. There are 6 of them. The meaning of this word is savagely fierce. Number 2. The meaning of this word is characterized by elegance or grace, or you could think of full of grace. Hopefully you've written ferocious and gracious, ending in C-I-O-U-S. Okay, next 2 words. This one is having much space. 4th word, harmful, spiteful, or full of malice. Hopefully you've written spacious and malicious. And our last 2, this word means greedy or full of avarice. And finally, this word means aware of one's own existence. Hopefully you've written avaricious and conscious. Okay, English over. Let's move on to thinking about art. Now, today I'm going to be asking you to consider how to develop your observation skills, because that's what's needed for some good artwork. You know that we all see things differently. If a flower was placed on a table, like the flower in front of you, depending on where you were sitting around the table, you'd see it from a different angle to someone on the other side of the table. You might have a different perspective on the flower. Here are some things for you to consider today. Artists, quite often when they're sketching, drawing and painting, make a choice. Are they going to have the whole object, here a vase of flowers, or just part of the object, maybe just one of those flowers? So we're agreed that sketching relies on developing keen observation skills. Here's an activity for you, activity 1, called blind line drawing. Now, can you see that the picture shows a girl who has a pencil pushed through a piece of cardboard? The idea is that the cardboard masks the pencil tip so that she can't see the end of her pencil. Now, she's looking at a feather in that photo, but I'd like you to get a flower and put a flower on the table, and then put your pencil through a piece of cardboard and see whether you could draw the flower without being able to see the top of your pencil. Now, this will mean that you have to look really, really carefully at the flower and develop your observation skill. When you think you've done it, you can take your card and pencil off the paper and you'd be able to see what you've drawn and see how realistic it is. So that's an activity for you to choose. Perhaps watch all of these before pausing the film, and then you can go back and choose the activities that you'd like to have a go at. Activity 2 is called continuous line drawing. If you look at this picture here, you will see that the artist put their pencil on the paper and the pencil hasn't been taken off once while they've drawn the complete flower. It's been continuously on the page, which might mean that they have to go back over lines that they've already drawn. So you could have a go at this, create a line drawing without taking your pencil from the page at all. Now, the art skill is about developing your awareness of shape, but it also relies upon the fact that you're going to be looking really carefully at the flower in front of you. So that could be a second drawing that you can try. Here's the third one. Crosshatching. This is about developing the art skill of tone and developing your shading techniques. Here, there's a flower, and if you wanted to draw this, your best bet would probably be to draw an outline of the petals first by looking really carefully. Then decide where there's more light and more darkness. And where you think there's more darkness, you're going to increase your use of crosshatching. Now, crossing and overlapping lines are what's called crosshatching in art. And the closer together the lines, the darker it appears. That's where you're going to use your crosshatching in the shadier parts of your flower. Okay, here's a fourth picture that you could try. It's an art skill called stippling, and it uses dots. Here you can see that the flower hasn't been drawn first. There is no outline to this flower. So the idea is that you could have a go at creating the shape and the internal parts of the flower by only using dots. Now, where your dots are more spaced out or perhaps lighter or smaller, it's where your lightest parts will be. If you put your dots closer together or make them larger or they start to blend together, you're showing shade. So your art skill is developing your awareness of tone and shading. Activity 5 is where you're asked to develop your skills as an artist to create abstract patterns by looking at your flower and thinking there's a curve, there's a line, and so on, and to create some patterns which do indeed represent flower. Can you see there are different internal patterns within the lines? You can see dots there, you can see triangles and shapes that look a little bit like scales. That develops your awareness of texture as an artist. Here's a lovely activity. You can make a viewfinder from cardboard, and if you haven't got any, you could just put your hands together as the picture shows. The idea is that you use your viewfinder held up against an object. The pictures on the left show some landscape, but the picture on the right shows a plant in the garden. And as we're thinking about plants and flowers, you might like to take a viewfinder into your garden. Now, this focuses your perspective and your eye and asks you to only paint or draw what's inside your viewfinder. I'll show you some more pictures here of flowers in the garden. You see the viewfinder on the left is held quite close to the flower to really frame the petals. The viewfinder on the right is held quite close to the person's eye who's looking, so the artist's eye, and the flowers are quite far away, but it really draws the eye in. If you wanted to develop the idea of viewfinder and you had some tracing paper or perhaps baking parchment at home, you can stick it to the back of cardboard and then you can draw quadrants inside it, which will help you think about your painting and where it appears within each quadrant. You can see that the artist here has tried to draw a hand, but has used the idea of quadrant viewfinder to create some idea of scale. I hope you've enjoyed thinking more creatively this week. And I'm sure in your garden or in a park near you, there are some plants and flowers which would be good to sketch. And you could have a go at all of those activities or just choose the ones that you like. Okay, Year 5, I hope you've enjoyed this week's lesson and I look forward to seeing you next week.